everyone, welcome to the third video for Vegan November. And so for breakfast yesterday I made a plate of apple nachos. For this I just sliced up one large red apple into wedges. I laid those out on a plate and then I drizzled over some peanut butter. I then sprinkled over some of my winter granola, which I made in my previous video, so I'll link to that below, and also some cacao nibs. I also made up a cup of Pucker's detox tea, which is aniseed, fennel and cardamom. It's really purifying and it's just a good one for the morning time. The apple nachos work really well as a snack too, but I like to make them for breakfast. They'd be really great for kids as well because you can get really creative with all the toppings and flavours. For a mid-morning snack I made some quinoa pizza balls. I first preheated my oven to 180 degrees Celsius and then I just added 2 cups of cooked quinoa into a mixing bowl with 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a tablespoon of dried basil, a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I seasoned it with salt and black pepper. I mixed that together well and then I took a small handful of fresh chopped basil and I just stirred that through the mix. I then took around a tablespoon at a time, squeezed the mix tight and then rolled it into balls. Placed them on a lined baking tray and this made 12 altogether. I then placed them in the oven to bake for around 20 to 25 minutes until they go slightly crispy. I then took them out of the oven, left them to cool down a little bit, but they were still warm enough to eat, and I had 4 of those. Even though the outside goes crispy, the middle of them stays soft, so it is just like the texture and all the flavours of pizza, and they're so delicious. A great idea for a snack or for lunch boxes for school or work. A great way to use up leftover quinoa, or you could use these instead of falafels in salads or wraps. For lunch I made some cheese, potato and broccoli soup. I first cut up 4 potatoes into chunks, then 2 peeled carrots, and I added those to a pan on a medium heat with 1 teaspoon of olive oil. I let them cook for a few minutes before then adding in 5 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I seasoned it with salt and black pepper. I then cut up a broccoli head into florets, added those to the pan with 3 cups of veg stock. I gave it a really good stir. My pan was slightly too full, but the vegetables cooked down quite quickly, and after 20 minutes I transferred it to my food processor and blended it up in 2 batches. I put it back in the pan just to heat it up a bit again, and then I served that up in a bowl with a drizzle of the cashew sour cream I made the other day and topped it with some pumpkin seeds. This is one of those really thick, comforting kind of soups which are just the best kind of soups for the winter, and it packs so much flavour. The potato makes it really creamy. This recipe actually makes up 4 bowls, so you could refrigerate the rest and eat it the next day, but I actually placed mine in a container and froze it, and then it's literally just a case of defrosting it, heating it up again, and your meal is ready for you. Plus I always find when it comes out of the freezer the flavours are even stronger and it's so much more delicious. For an afternoon snack I had a cocoa orange naked bar. These are great and I'm sure I've probably mentioned them in previous videos numerous times, but I'm slowly making my way through all of the flavours. My favourites are the cacao mint and the Bakewell tart ones, but these ones taste like orange chocolate and they're literally just made with dates, cashews, raisins, cacao and some natural orange flavourings. They're chewy, they're delicious, and it's just one of my go-to snacks to grab when I'm working at home or as a handbag snack. For dinner I made a mushroom bourguignon and we had this with some roasted sweet potato. So I first peeled and sliced up 2. These were actually white sweet potato, which I don't really like, only because as soon as you peel them they start to turn green. But I just placed those in a dish with a tablespoon of olive oil, made sure that they were well coated, and then I spread them out on a lined baking tray. I just used the same sheet as my quinoa pizza balls and I left those to roast in the oven for 30 minutes on 180 degrees Celsius. I next added 8 halved shallots to a pan and I cooked those off in a drizzle of olive oil before then mincing in 3 cloves of garlic. I added in a bunch of fresh thyme, some chopped rosemary and 2 bay leaves. I then took 400 grams of mushrooms. I kept most of them whole, but I halved some larger ones, and I also chopped up 2 peeled carrots. Next I added in 2 heaped tablespoons of chickpea flour, which helps to thicken the sauce, a tablespoon of tomato paste, and then I added in the carrots, gave that a really good stir before then adding in the mushrooms. I then poured in 1 pint of veg stock, seasoned it with salt and black pepper, and I also added in a splash of vegan Worcester sauce, which enhances the flavour and it also darkens the gravy. I left that to simmer with the lid on for around 15 to 20 minutes, and you should end up with a really rich, thick gravy almost, and the mushrooms will have cooked by this point. I then removed the sweet potato from the oven. I deliberately cook these until they're slightly crispy because of the green colour, and then I layered those into bowls and then divided up the bourguignon into 2. I topped it with some more fresh thyme, and that was that. You could also serve this with some brown rice or mashed potato, but again, this is such a comforting, filling, wintry dinner, and if you try any recipes from Vegan November so far, try this. It's so delicious and I promise you'll love it. I used to hate mushrooms, and this kind of meal would be my idea of a nightmare, but I've grown to love mushrooms since going vegan, and I cook with them all the time now. They almost have like a meaty texture to them, so they're just great for so many dishes. For dessert, I made a vanilla brown rice pudding. I first cooked up 1 cup of rinsed brown rice in a pan with 2 cups of water, and after about 20 minutes or so, once it was soft, I then rinsed it and drained it, and then I added 1.5 cups of the Outbro vanilla rice milk back to the pan on a low heat with 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a pinch of nutmeg and a pinch of salt. I then added the rice back in and gave it a really good stir. I tasted it and it wasn't quite as vanilla-y as I wanted it to be, so I then added in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I then left that to simmer for around another 15 minutes, and in this time it goes even thicker and even creamier, and then I served it up into 2 bowls. This recipe makes 2 portions. I especially love it with the vanilla rice milk, but coconut milk would work just as well for this, and it's just one of those things that you can really tuck into on a chilly night under a blanket. It's such a sweet and again really comforting dessert. And that is it for another What I Eat in a Day for Vegan November. I really hope you enjoyed this video. As always, all of the recipes and ingredients will be listed in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again on Monday for the next one. Bye!